The double doors of the Sarnathi Interstellar Veterinary Clinic burst open with a hiss, scattering the sterile scent of ozone and antiseptics into the crowded waiting room. A low, guttural growl followed, drawing the attention of every sentient species in the place. Some shuffled away nervously. Others stared. All eyes locked on the bloodied creature dragging itself through the entrance, its thick, armored body leaving a smear of dark, oily fluid across the floor. It was a predator. Not just any, but a full-grown male, identifiable by the jagged tusks jutting out from its lower jaw and the scorched plating on its shoulders. Scorch marks meant combat. Combat meant danger. "Out," barked a voice from behind the reception desk. The vet doctor. Halrix, a tall, spindly Gorthani with pale, reflective skin, stood frozen in the doorway of the surgical wing. His long fingers twitched as he pointed at the predator. "We do not treat war beasts," Halrix said, voice sharp. "This is a peaceful facility." The predator collapsed onto its side with a heavy thud, breathing raggedly. One of its eyes was swollen shut, its left forelimb dangled uselessly, the joint clearly dislocated or worse. A small Threllan courier in the back whispered, "It's dying." "No," Halrix said, backing away, "it's dangerous." A chorus of murmurs rippled through the room. No one moved, no one dared. Then the door opened again, boots stomped across the entrance mat. A man walked in, tall, broad-shouldered, his dark green jacket streaked with dust and sweat. A steel case swung from his left hand. His right forearm was wrapped in a makeshift bandage that had clearly seen better days. He took in the scene with a glance. Predator on the floor, blood spreading, everyone frozen. He exhaled through his nose, stepped forward, and dropped to one knee beside the creature. "I'll handle this," he said. Halrix blinked. "You're human." "Name's Grant," the man said, flipping open his case. "Grant Dorrell, field medic, Earth Terran Corps, retired. Now freelance contractor with the Galactic Humanitarian Accord." "That is a predator," Halrix said. "You cannot possibly intend it's alive," Grant said. "And bleeding out. So unless you want a corpse in your lobby, I suggest you help or get out of my light." No one moved, Grant grunted, reaching into the case. "Fine. I've worked in worse conditions." He pulled out a sealing clamp and a spray applicator. "Much worse." The predator's breathing hitched as he shifted its weight. Grant lifted the forelimb carefully, his jaw tightening, dislocated, maybe fractured, chest platings cracked, looks like a plasma burst hit him from the left, internal bleeding likely. He looked up. "I need saline, a stabilizer pack, and an immobilizer brace. Now." Halrix hesitated. Grant snapped, "Or do I have to start naming bones as I break them back into place?" That got Halrix moving. A few minutes later, Grant had the tools he needed. He worked fast but steady, his hands surprisingly gentle as he cleaned the burns and applied the dermal sealant. The predator groaned once, claws twitching. "Easy," Grant murmured. "I got you." A Sarnathi security officer stepped in from the corridor, a hand on the pulse rifle at his hip. "You're aware that creature is classified as a Category 4 combatant?" Grant didn't look up. "And you're aware it's not moving, right? I need to scan its registry. Be my guest." The officer stepped closer with a handheld scanner. A soft beep followed. "Name Kael. Designated scout for the Varn Coalition. Injured during unauthorized border crossing." Grant raised an eyebrow. "Scout, huh? That explains the light armor. He's still a predator," Halrix said from the other side of the room. "They were bred for war. Genetically engineered to destroy." "And humans weren't," Grant said as he packed up his kit. "We weren't grown in labs, but we've been killing each other since we learned to throw rocks. Doesn't mean we can't choose to do something else." The room fell silent. Kael's eyes fluttered open. He rasped something in a rough dialect of Varnish. Grant leaned closer. "What's he saying?" Halrix asked. "He's asking why I helped him," Grant said. "Well," the vet asked. Grant stood. "Because he needed it." That should have been the end of it, but things rarely stopped there. 2 days later, Grant sat in a quiet corner of the clinic's staff lounge, sipping lukewarm stim tea and reading through a report on a tablet. His arm, now properly dressed and stitched from an earlier skirmish, throbbed with a dull ache. He ignored it. "Human," a voice said. He looked up. Kael stood in the doorway, wrapped in a medical shroud with one arm in a sling. The bruising around his jaw had faded slightly. His expression was unreadable. "Didn't think they'd let you walk around yet," Grant said. Kael stepped in cautiously. "You bound my arm." "Yeah." "That's what medics do. You touched me." Grant tilted his head. How'd you think I was going to treat you? Telepathy?" Kael looked down. "You didn't flinch." "I've treated worse." "Why?" Grant set the tablet aside. "I was deployed on Sarni's 12 when the plague hit. A bunch of species, all sick, all scared. We didn't have time to ask who was a soldier and who wasn't. We just treated the ones we could. Some made it, some didn't. That kind of thing sticks with you." Kael sat opposite him. "Your kind is unpredictable." "Yeah," Grant said. "We get that a lot." Howrix entered the lounge, paused when he saw the two of them, and sighed. "This is highly irregular." Grant stood slowly. "You got something to say? You endangered everyone by bringing that thing in." Grant stepped toward him. "He was already inside when I got here." "I just kept him from dying on your floor." Howrix's fingers twitched again. "I've filed a formal complaint." "Great," Grant said. "Send it to the Accord. I'll add it to the pile." Kael's gaze flicked between them. "I can leave." "No," Grant said. "You're not healed." "I've survived worse." "You'll survive better if you let the treatment do its job." Kael looked at Howrix. "I do not wish to offend." Howrix's voice lowered. "You should have thought of that before crossing our border." Kael turned to leave. Grant blocked the door. "You walk out now. You're risking permanent damage to that shoulder." Kael hesitated. Grant pointed to the medbay. "Back in." Kael obeyed. Howrix muttered, "You're insane." "Probably," Grant said, "but I'm also right." Over the next week, Kael remained under Grant's care. The Predator didn't speak much, but he watched everything. When Grant adjusted the brace, Kael asked questions. When Grant applied muscle stimulators, Kael observed the readings. By the fourth day, he was reciting his own vitals before Grant even checked them. "You ever consider medical school?" Grant asked one afternoon. Kael looked puzzled. "I was bred for reconnaissance." "Yeah, well, you've got good instincts." Howrix scoffed in the background. "The idea of a predator as a healer is absurd." Grant ignored him. "You're healing faster than I expected." "I have strong cellular regeneration." "No kidding." Kael's gaze lowered to Grant's arm. "You are not healing as fast. Humans don't regenerate, we scar." Kael looked disturbed by that. "That seems inefficient. Tell me about it." The conversation was interrupted by an alarm in the hallway. A loud voice shouted, "Incoming trauma, multiple injured, transport arriving in 30 seconds." Grant was already moving. "Kael, stay here." Kael stood. "I can help." "No," Grant said. "You're not cleared." Kael stepped forward. "I have 2 arms, one works." Grant stared at him, then nodded. "Stay behind me." The doors burst open. A transport crew rushed in, dragging a stretch gurney with a burned Threllan child crying out in pain. Behind them, a wounded Dravani with a mangled leg limped on crutches. Grant took over triage. "Howrix, get the dermal sealant." "Kael, get me a coolant pack and gloves sized for Threllan's skin." Kael moved fast, no hesitation. The child whimpered as Grant cleaned the wound. "You're okay." "You're okay, little one." Kael returned with the supplies and handed them to Grant. He didn't flinch at the sight of the burns or the smell of scorched tissue. When it was over, Grant slumped onto a bench. Kael sat beside him. "You didn't have to help," Grant said. Kael replied, "You didn't either, but you did." They sat in silence. Later that night, Howrix approached Grant in the supply room. "I was wrong," the vet said. Grant turned. "About what?" "About him. About you. I still don't trust the Predator." "But I do believe he is more than his programming." Grant nodded. "That's all I wanted." Howrix hesitated. "I cannot officially endorse your methods, but if you require equipment, the clinic will supply it." "Thanks," Grant said. "We'll probably need it." Howrix left. Kael appeared in the doorway. "They've stopped staring at me, for now," Grant said. "Give it time, you'll be old news soon." Kael tilted his head. "And what then?" Grant clapped him on the good shoulder. "Then we find the next person who needs help." Kael nodded once. I'll handle it. The lights in the clinic's rear ward flickered once, then steadied. A low thrum from the building's backup capacitor came and went, unnoticed by most. Grant noticed. He always noticed. Power dips meant stress on the grid, and stress on the grid usually meant something was going wrong in orbit. Didn't hear any shuttles land, he muttered. Kael, seated beside the diagnostic console, rotated his left shoulder slowly. The brace had come off earlier that morning. His range of motion was limited, but improving. The muscle scanner's display confirmed what Grant could already see: scar tissue was forming unevenly across the deltoid. Not ideal, but manageable. You'll need hydrotherapy twice a rotation, Grant said. And friction massage on the posterior fibers to break up adhesions. I'll show you how. Kael leaned forward. What is friction massage? Grant reached for a small jar of thermal gel. It's uncomfortable, but it works. You press into the scar, move across the grain, not with your claws, pads only. No tearing. Kael dipped 2 fingers into the gel and mimicked the motion. Like this, slower. You're not sanding a hull plate. Kael adjusted, nodding once. The outer door hissed open. A squat, scale-covered technician poked his head in. We're catching static bursts from the upper relay. Might be weather interference. Grant glanced at the ceiling. There's no weather in orbit, the tech shrugged. Could be solar discharge or jammers, Grant said. Any military traffic, not that we've picked up. Kael stood. If it's jammers, someone's concealing approach vectors. You picking up anything on your end? Grant asked. Kael tapped the side of his jaw just below the ridge of his cranial implant. It lit faintly. My interface is blocked, that's deliberate. Grant turned to the tech. Tell Halrix to check the perimeter feeds. I want eyes on every approach corridor. He's in the main lab, the tech said. Running diagnostics on the blood samples you collected. Fine, just tell him. The tech scuttled off. Grant turned back. You feel up for a walk? Kael flexed his shoulder. Yes. They moved through the side corridor, past closed exam rooms and sealed storage doors. The scent of sterilization lingered in the air, stronger than usual. Grant frowned. Smell that? Kael took a slow breath. Ammonia. Concentrated. Somebody scrubbed the surgical bay. It wasn't used today, Kael said. Grant stopped outside the bay. The door was cracked open. He pushed it with his foot. Inside, the tables were gleaming, perfectly aligned. The floor was spotless, too spotless. Grant crouched, running a hand along the edge of the drain. Still damp. Kael's eyes narrowed. There's no record of a procedure. Grant stood slowly. Someone's hiding something. Before Kael could respond, a muffled clang echoed from behind the storage wall. Grant moved fast, pushing through the adjacent maintenance door. Inside, amid stacked supply crates, a young Fesari crouched behind a filtration unit, clutching a toolkit. Easy, Grant said, palms out. The Fesari's crest trembled. I wasn't stealing. I swear, didn't say you were. Kael stepped inside. What did you hear? The Fesari glanced between them. They brought in a transport, through the back, no manifest, no logs, just wheeled it in and locked the bay. When? Grant asked. Late cycle. Maybe 14 hours ago. Who's they? Security. But not our detail, outsiders, black armor, no insignia. Grant's jaw tightened. Where'd they take the transport? Bay 7. That's sealed. Halrix said it was under maintenance. The Fesari nodded. I think that's a lie. Kael looked at the ceiling. I can bypass the lock, you sure? Yes, but we'll need a distraction. Grant turned to the Fesari. You want to do something useful? The Fesari's crest lifted hesitantly. Go back to the lab. Tell Halrix there's a coolant leak in the west wing. He'll check it himself. That buys us 6 minutes. The Fesari bolted. Grant followed Kael to the access corridor. Kael knelt by the control panel and slid a thin tool from his sling. The cover popped free, revealing a mess of bundled circuits. Give me 30 seconds, he said. Grant kept watch, ears tuned. No footsteps. No hum from the overhead cams. Whoever locked down Bay 7 hadn't bothered to reactivate surveillance. Sloppy, Kael tapped a final wire. The door hissed open just enough to slip through. Inside, the air was cold. Not chilled, refrigerated. A containment pod sat in the center of the room, its sides pulsing with soft blue light. Grant approached slowly. Not medical. Kael examined the interface. Input access is encrypted. Civilian systems don't use this format. Grant leaned in. Military. Kael nodded. From where? Kael hesitated. This is Earth tech. Grant's stomach sank. Show me. Kael tapped the corner of the screen. A symbol flickered, a stylized eagle, wings outstretched over a circular grid. Old Terran defense seal, Grant muttered. Should have been retired cycles ago. Kael stepped back. Then it's Black Ops. Grant examined the pod. No labels, no biomarker tags, just a single biometric scanner on the front panel. He placed his hand on it. The scanner pulsed. A soft click. The pod split down the middle. Cold vapor hissed out. Inside lay a humanoid figure, smaller than Kael, lean and unmoving. Not human, not fully. Kael crouched. Augments, subdermal plating, ocular mesh. She's engineered, Grant said, but not like you. Kael studied the face. She's awake. The woman's eyes opened slowly. Pale silver irises, no fear, no confusion. She sat up. Where am I? Grant kept his hands visible. You're in a veterinary clinic on Lira Station. She scanned the room. That's not where I was supposed to be. Where were you supposed to be? She looked at Kael, then at Grant. Dead? Kael tensed. Grant stepped back. Who put you in that pod? Her expression didn't change. I don't know, but they weren't from your station. The door behind them beeped, once, then again. Someone's coming, Kael said. Grant helped the woman out of the pod. Can you walk? Yes, follow me. They slipped out through the maintenance route just as the main door slid open. Footsteps echoed behind them. Heavy, coordinated, Grant led them into the sterilization corridor and through the waste chute access. It reeked, but no one ever checked it. They emerged behind the storage wing near the clinic's unused cryo lab. Grant keyed the door open. We'll be safe here, for now. The woman leaned against the wall. Who are you? Name's Grant. This is Kael. We're the ones who kept you from being dissected. She nodded once. I need a calm link. That's not happening until I know who you are. She hesitated. My designation is Lira. I was part of Project Halberd. Grant blinked. That's classified. Not anymore, she said. They terminated it. I was the only one who survived. Kael looked between them. What was Halberd? Grant exhaled. Off-book program, human enhancement designed for infiltration and extraction. They were trying to make operatives who could pass as alien. Lira touched her temple. It worked. Why did they put you on ice? Because I left. Grant met her eyes. What do they want from you now? I know where the others are buried. Kael's jaw shifted. Buried? They didn't just terminate the project, they erased it, and everyone in it. Grant rubbed his temple, which means they'll be back to finish the job. They never left, Lira said. They're already here. A loud clang echoed through the corridor. Outside, muffled voices barked commands. Kael moved to the door. Patrols. Grant looked at Lira. Can you fight? She flexed her fingers. I don't need to. That's not what I asked. She nodded once. Yes. Grant turned to Kael. We can't hold this place. Kael agreed. Then we move. Lira stepped forward. There's a ship docked on the old Med Bay ring. I can pilot it. Grant narrowed his eyes. That ring's been offline for years. Not anymore. They used it to bring me in. Kael glanced at the ceiling. We'll need a route that avoids the central hub. I've got one, Lira said, but we need to go now. Grant looked at both of them. Then let's do this. Quietly, they slipped out through the cryo lab's rear exit into the sub-tunnel access. The walls dripped with condensation and the lights flickered as the power grid struggled to reroute. From somewhere above, the echo of boots on metal rang out sharp and steady. Lira whispered, they'll follow the heat trail. Kael tapped his wrist. I can mask ours. Grant raised an eyebrow. You didn't mention that. Kael's eyes glittered. You didn't ask. The corridor's low ceiling forced Grant to crouch as he led the way through the sub-tunnel, its walls close enough to brush both shoulders if he turned. The damp air clung to his skin. Behind him, Kael moved with the calculated grace of someone long accustomed to tight corners. Lira followed last, her breathing steady, her eyes flicking between every junction they passed. They reached a rusted maintenance hatch near the floor. Grant turned the latch with both hands. It groaned, then gave way with a hollow creak. On the other side, a narrow shaft angled upward toward what had once been a secondary docking corridor, long abandoned after a circulation breach 3 cycles ago. Kael slid through first, pulling himself upward with one working arm and both feet, using the wall rungs spaced unevenly along the shaft. Grant followed, then Lira, who didn't hesitate despite her thin frame and bare feet. She moved like someone who'd climbed things far less forgiving. At the top, Kael pried open the secondary hatch with a line tool from his belt. The corridor beyond was dark but intact. A single red emergency strip still pulsed along the left wall. Grant stepped inside. This ring was condemned. I remember the report. Said half the oxygen scrubbers failed. They never replaced them, Lira said. But they routed emergency systems to this section last cycle, just enough to run life support and power a ship bay. Grant raised an eyebrow. And that doesn't seem suspicious to anyone. No one checks old corridors, she said. That's the point. They moved quickly, boots and claws silent on the metal floor. After 2 turns, the corridor opened into a hangar vestibule. A single ship waited beyond the glass panel, a sleek, mid-sized corvette with no markings and a sensor array that looked newer than anything on the station. Grant stared. That's not surplus. It's not listed at all, Lira said. It was built off ledger. I flew it in under a duplicate transponder. Kael pointed to the far corner. Motion sensor, still active. Lira crouched, opening a side panel below the security console. She pulled 2 wires apart and twisted them around a sub-node. The wall sensor blinked once, then went dark. Grant exhaled. Remind me never to play cards with you. She stood, brushing her hands clean. I don't cheat. No, you just bypass systems designed to detect invisible ships. Kael stepped to the door controls and tapped the release. The bulkhead groaned, then opened halfway before jamming. Grant looked up. Hydraulics are dry. Kael wedged his shoulder under the panel and pushed. With a metallic screech, the door rose enough to crawl under. On the other side, the hangar was silent. The corvette's landing lights flickered once, then steadied. Grant walked the perimeter, scanning for any signs of tampering. He checked the vent lines, the fuel linkage, and the rear hatch. Everything was sealed. No signs of sabotage inside the cockpit. Lira powered up the systems. A soft hum filled the cabin, followed by a cascading flicker of green across the dashboard. Flight paths already plotted, she said. Takes us out through the debris field. Less chance of tracking. Grant leaned over the console. If we're doing this, we need to wipe the station's log of the ship's registry and purge any backup traces. I did that before I landed, she said. They can't follow us unless they send a beacon drone. Kael looked at the hatch. Someone's coming. Grant followed his gaze. A faint vibration ran through the floor, a low, deliberate rhythm. Not the randomness of station foot traffic. Tracked boots moving in formation. Grant pointed to the access ladder running along the upper gantry. Up, now, Kael took the lead. Grant followed, as Lira hoisted herself behind them with practiced ease. They lay flat on the support struts above the hangar doors, watching as 6 figures in matte black armor stepped through the half-open bulkhead. Each carried a compact rifle slung across their chest, and their helmets bore no insignia. One of them stopped near the ship's hatch and pulled a scanner from his belt. He's checking for body heat, Grant whispered. We've got maybe 20 seconds. Kael adjusted his weight silently. Lira leaned close. We don't have weapons. Don't need them, Grant said. We've got leverage. The man at the hatch turned. Clear, he said to the others. No signs of entry. She must have doubled back, another replied. Orders are to secure the site. We hold here until the transport returns. They fanned out, one taking position near the gantry control, another near the fuel lines. Grant whispered, if we trigger the ignition cycle manually, it'll flood the bay with smoke and force an emergency vent. Kael raised an eyebrow. That will alert the whole station. Exactly, Grant said, which means security will show up, real security. Ones that report to the station council, not whatever shadow division these guys are from. Lira nodded once. I'll do it. Grant shook his head. You've done enough. She tapped the console embedded in her wrist. It's already done. Below, the ship's engines whined softly, then a sharp hiss. A cloud of white vapor erupted from under the hull, followed by a low, looping alarm. The men below shouted, raising rifles. System fault, one called. Ventilation override. The hangar lights switched to red. A klaxon sounded. Kael grabbed the emergency cable and slid down first, landing behind a supply crate. Grant followed, rolling to cover the moment he hit the floor. Lira dropped last, heading straight for the hatch. One of the black armored soldiers spotted movement and fired. The bolt ricocheted off a fuel tank. Grant shouted, "Do not hit the tanks!" Kael launched forward, grabbed the shooter's arm, and twisted. The man dropped his rifle with a grunt. Grant swept the legs out from another and shoved him into a wall panel. The smoke grew thicker. Lira keyed open the hatch. Inside, now, Grant dragged Kael through the gap, ducking another shot. Once inside, Lira sealed it and bolted the manual lock. The ship lifted off before the landing gear fully retracted. The hangar doors, still jammed, loomed ahead. Grant glanced at Lira. "You've got a plan for that, right? Just hold on." She hit the throttle. The Corvette surged forward, angled upward, and struck the upper lip of the jammed doors with a reverberating jolt. The impact forced them open the last few feet, and the ship slipped through with inches to spare. Space unfolded around them, black and endless. The debris field ahead shimmered with rotating panels and shattered hulls, remnants of a centuries-old skirmish no one remembered. Kael leaned against the bulkhead, his shoulder bleeding again. Grant opened his kit and pulled gauze and a coagulant spray. "You tore it," he said. Kael didn't argue. Grant wrapped the joint again, tighter this time. "You'll need a sling," Grant added. "I'd prefer not to." "Not optional. You want function back, you immobilize." Kael lowered his gaze. "Understood." Lira guided the ship between two fractured satellites. "They'll chase us." Grant adjusted the sling. "Only if they survive the station audit." That alarm triggered a full investigation. Kael looked at the display. "Do you trust them to report it?" "They don't have a choice," Grant said. "That hangar's in restricted space." "It's already flagged." Lira angled the ship toward a distant mass of ice-covered wreckage. "Once we clear this field, I'm dumping the transponder. After that, we're ghosts." Grant secured the med kit. "Where will you go?" "Somewhere quiet," she said. "I've got names, people who helped us." "I can warn them." Kael adjusted his seat. "You'll be hunted." Lira didn't blink. "Then I'll make sure they never find the others." Grant nodded slowly. "You're sure?" "I woke up for a reason," she said. "Might as well make it count." The ship cleared the last ring of debris. Stars stretched out ahead, unmarred. No alarms, no pursuit, just silence. Kael leaned back, eyes closed. Lira adjusted the course manually, bypassing the nav system. "I'll drop both of you at a neutral port. After that, I disappear." She didn't wait for approval. Grant rested his head against the wall, the tension slowly bleeding from his shoulders. "You did good, Kael." Kael opened one eye. "You're not a bad field medic." "Don't get sentimental on me." "I wasn't." They both looked at Lira. She was focused, calm, and completely unreadable. After a while, Grant stood and walked to the rear storage unit. He pulled out an emergency ration pack and tossed it toward her. "Eat," he said. "You're still recovering." She caught it one-handed. "You always feed your fugitives. Only the ones who hijack ships for me." Lira cracked the seal and bit off a corner. "Terran rations taste like insulation." "Good," Grant said. "Means it's working." The ship cruised forward, engines quiet, systems stable. No one followed, no alarms sounded. "Nothing left undone."